We went from $2.2 million in revenue to $3.9 million in revenue. I went from closing 20% of the time to 75% of the time, and then in total doing more than $80 million of business, all because I learned how to ask questions. So things that you might want to learn. So I have 5 stories. A lot of times I do presentations like this and people will say, oh, slow down, I got to get the slides, but I don't have 20 minutes and I have 103 slides, so I'm going to go pretty fast. But rest assured, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to flash every slide I've done. I'll tell you when, you get ready and we're good. I got you, people, all right? So here's the thing. I have this observation, I've noticed something, that it seems like extroverts have all the fun in the world. They're outgoing, they have lots of friends, they're never nervous or uncomfortable around people, and they seem to get all the credit. We think of CEOs and leaders and innovators as extroverts, and I'm an introvert. And so I started wondering, like, does that mean we never get invited to the party? We don't have any of the glory and the fun? And I don't think that's the case. And I wanted to ask you this question. How many introverts are here? Can you raise your hand? Yeah, you're with real introverts when you ask how many, woo, woo, woo. It's kind of like that. And the other ones just kept quiet, and the real introverts didn't even raise their hand. Okay, so a lot of introverts here. And I've developed a way to sell and learning how to have conversations with people that I think feels natural and in alignment with my values, my philosophy, my belief that I want to share with you today. And when we think about salespeople, the stereotypical salesperson, you might think of them as maybe aggressive, sometimes manipulative, and you get that like icky feeling, that vibe that they don't really care about you. Anybody feel that way about salespeople? Yeah. It's pretty strong here too. Like I was in the old town and I can't even walk by the street. Somebody's trying to pull me in. And I want to shop there, but I won't because they're so aggressive. They're like, don't go by the water, it's dangerous. I'm like, it's dangerous here because you're gonna take all my money. I feel that, right? So I was like, there's got to be a different way. There must be an alternative to the stereotypical salesperson, and I think there is. One that is permission-based, that is built on you giving value in the spirit of generosity led by your curiosity. And if we can find that way, maybe we can have a different relationship with sales so we're not left out of the party, so we're not starving, so that we can earn more, so that we can help more people. That sounds like a pretty good thing to do, yes? Yes, okay. So let's do that. So what we need to do is we need to reframe what sales mean. And my presentation is pretty dense, so I'm going to go through this, and feel free to, if there's time, I'll try and talk to you, but it's going to be pretty tight. Number one is we need to understand that sales is change management. It's not to sell them something. It's not to force your product, your services, whatever it is you want them to do upon them. You have to start thinking about it this way, like somebody wants to achieve a result. They want to make more money. They want to have a better relationship. They want to be a better communicator. Maybe they want to be a public speaker and get paid to do that. So what you need to do is help them achieve that result. And they're looking at you because they can't get it without your help. So the main question that you need to figure out is, well, who is this somebody? What is it they want? And what is the thing that stands in their way? So there's an obstacle. If there's no obstacle, there's no problem, there's nothing to do. So if you're selling a sweater, you might find that somebody's cold and is worried about catching a cold and they're uncomfortable, so they might want a sweater. And so there's this simple idea that there's your current state, like where you are right now, and then there's a desired future state where you'd like to be, the outcome, the result, the benefit. And we just need to identify then the thing that's preventing them from achieving that. Number two is we have to realize something, that only by spending money do we make the problem go away. So whenever you have a problem, a headache, you need to buy some medicine. If you have a toothache, you go see a dentist. We know that we have to spend money. And the reason why I say this to you, because some of you don't know that this is an obvious idea, that you feel like you have to convince them to buy something. If you help them to realize they have a problem, they will already desire the solution and they know they have to spend money. The good news is you don't have a problem if you can sign a check. If you can spend money to solve a problem, you don't really have a problem, okay? So the next part of this is how much money they will spend is entirely dependent on how big the problem is to them. It's very contextual. Not how big the problem is to you, how big is the problem to them. So a tennis coach is worth very little to me because I don't care to be a better tennis player. But to my wife who loves to play tennis, it is very valuable to her, unfortunately, so I have to pay that. That's how this works. Everyone understands that, right? If you're married, you understand. So what we have to do is we have to shift away from this idea. It's a very popular idea, especially in design circles, that we're problem solvers. Does anybody describe themselves as a problem solver? It's very popular, right? You're wrong. Sorry, you're just wrong. So we need to move away from problem solving to problem seeking. We have to find the hidden problem. And the challenge here is not everybody understands how to tell you what their problem is. So only by engaging them in dialogue, being curious and asking questions, can we find out what their problem is. When you help them to realize the problem, then they see the value of the solution. Chances are, if they're pushing back on your price, it's because you have not spent enough time helping them to understand their problem. And that leads us to this idea from Phil M. Jones that people do things for their own reasons, not for your reasons. And Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, he talks about this in his book. The number one mistake that he made when he was negotiating is he was using his value set to negotiate. And when he realized that people value different things, he was a much more successful negotiator. Number 3, when a prospect reaches out, you have something called goodwill. No one has so much free time they're willing to talk to you when they don't see any value in you. So they're already giving you the benefit of the doubt. They believe you potentially have a solution to a problem. And this is the next part, is that everything that you say and do either builds trust or destroys trust. So the next time you're on a sales call, record yourself and objectively listen to what you do and say, if it weren't me selling to me, would I trust this person in these moments? And try to identify, like, okay, when I was pushing a solution that they didn't need, am I building trust? When I interrupted them mid-sentence, was I building trust? When I knew what I did not solve their problem and I still offered it to them, was I building trust? You see, you start with goodwill, and everything you do either builds it or destroys it. Makes sense, right? The next one is that not everyone who talks to you is your client. Because people get really hard on themselves when a prospect doesn't sign on the dotted line. They don't give you the work. You're like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. I don't have enough experience. I said something wrong. And I have this idea that there are mainly 4 buyer types. There are more than 4, but here are the 4 that I've identified. Number 1 is the price shopper. The price shopper wants it for the lowest price. They don't care about quality. They don't care about service. They want the lowest price. You do not want to work with a price shopper. So when you identify the price shopper, because the number one thing they care about is price, you should refer your enemy. Have them work with them. You don't need that kind of headache, okay? Number 2, I'll describe as a tire kicker. You guys understand tire kicker? They go to a used car lot and they test everything, they're kicking it. It's because they don't realize they have a problem. They're just window shopping the entire time. What they have is they have a lot of free time and they're using all of yours. And you can be fooled by the tire kicker because you're like, wow, they're really interested. They want to know about this, they want to know about that. And you never hear from them again. So when you identify the tire kicker, they're not serious with their intention. They don't have an urgent problem they want to solve, or they don't have the funds to do it. They're just in a very early state of research. Move on. The way that you do that is you give them information. It seems like you need more information, send them to a website. Have them watch a video. Have them take a quiz. Offload their interests onto something that's totally scalable that doesn't cost you more time. The third type of client, my least favorite type of client, is the know-it-all client. Chris, you should design it this way and use these colors, but I don't like that typeface. You have more options. They want to micromanage everything that you do. And how can you recognize the know-it-all client? When you're on the conversation, they want to control the conversation. They're not willing to give you control. So when we're in a sales conversation, we must ask them for a concession to allow us to control the agenda of the conversation so that we can achieve a productive conversation. Make sense? Okay, so what's the last type? The most valuable type. They're called the value buyer. And there are some consistent traits about a value buyer, okay? And here they are. They value time more than money. They are willing to spend money to save time. And they are very discriminating. They have very good taste, and they only want to work with the very best. The best materials, the best service, and they want you to be available to them. And this is great because they're willing to pay a premium for you. How do you know they really value you and like you and trust you? They're willing to pay more to work with you than they're willing to pay to work with anybody else. So the idea that we discount our prices to close a sale means we actively invite people not to trust us, not to like us. And we do that a lot as creative people. All right, so they have a clear idea, they can articulate it to you, and they're willing to pay a premium. That's how you know this is the value buyer. Currently, just out of curiosity, how many of you work with a value buyer right now? Oh, that's fantastic. So everybody keep your hands up, okay? And you know, one thing I want to do is encourage everybody to look around this room. If your hand's not up, look at somebody close to you and strike up a conversation with them later today. Ask them, how is it you found this client, and what is it they do? What can I learn from you? Is that okay? You guys are not shy here, right? In Asia, nobody looks at each other, but here, everybody talks to each other, right? Okay, fantastic. And you need to realize one other thing. There are three options. They can hire you, hire someone else, or do nothing at all. When you realize this, it takes a lot of pressure off you to close the sale. So it's not right, just move on. I refer to this as align or decline. We're either in alignment with our values and our goals, and you're willing to pay me a premium, or I'm just going to decline. I'm not offended. I'm objective and neutral. I'm just going to recommend somebody else. So to recap, the objective in a sales conversation is actually not to sell. It's to determine if we're a good fit. And if we're a good fit, I'll recommend some options for you to consider. And if you want to move forward, you need to pay me and we're good. So when we look at how to reframe sales, we need to move away from a self-centered model where I have things I care about, I want to make money, to serving the other person, to be of service to someone, to think of them ahead of yourself. And we want to move away from giving advice or advising people to asking big, beautiful questions so we can learn about what it is that they're working through, what the obstacles that stand in their way. Instead of talking, we want to listen more. Instead of ignoring their needs, their objections, their feelings, and their pain, we're going to empathize with them. And instead of selling or pitching or performing, we're going to summarize what we learned and possibly share one or two insights. And if you look at all those letters, it's serve, ask, listen, empathize, and summarize. And that's what sales is. And that's how you can sell without being salesy. So the whole goal of this is so that you guys can close more and sell less. Okay, so I have a quick confession. I don't know how I'm doing on time here. I'm scared. Okay, I'm not doing good. All right. I'm not a sales trainer. I've never received sales training. I'm not a sales expert. Not at all. And there's a period of time in my life that I hated sales. Now, I don't know about you. When you hate something, you don't get good at it. You actually have a really sour, bad attitude when you do it. So you don't sell, you hate sales. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And I want to tell you about how I went from hating sales to loving sales, okay? Number one, I had to overcome this belief. It is a belief that's perpetuated within the creative community that if my work is good enough, I shouldn't have to sell. Maybe you've heard this, maybe you've said it, but you probably believe it. And I have to give up this idea. Everybody is good. Being good is the barrier of entry. You have to be good just to play. It's the cost of admission. So I hit this inflection point. I'm growing my service company from 1995 for about 7 years. I've been able to make multiple millions of dollars in a year, and I thought I was doing great. And then I meet my business coach, Keir McLaren. And he asked me lots of questions because my frustration was, Keir, when I'm bidding on projects that are $200,000 and above, I cannot close them. When it's below $200,000, I can close about 80% of the time. And I was really frustrated because I was thinking, I need to go beyond that. The problem is my approach to sales was all wrong. And I'm going to tell you what he told me, what I thought was super valuable. And it's this one thing. He asked me this one question, Chris, how do you know what the client wants? Prior to this point in time, I just presumed I knew. But yeah, like from the heavens to me, I knew. And he goes, why don't you just ask them? What is it that you want? How will you make decisions? What are you afraid of happening? What stands in your way? And when he gave me permission to ask those questions, my entire life and company changed. So I went from going beyond the $200,000, getting $400,000, $600,000, and even a job that's over $1 million. And he told me something. You thought you're playing in the big leagues, but you're playing in the minor leagues. So every time you move up to the next level, you have to acquire new skills. And then it made sense to me. So there's this expression, what got you here won't get you there. So in your business, you may have achieved a certain amount of success, hit a plateau, and the way you get beyond that is you have to learn new skills. And by doing what he told me to do in 2 coaching sessions, I was able to 2x or almost 2x our revenue. So we went from $2.2 million in revenue to $3.9 million in revenue. I went from closing 20% of the time to 75% of the time, and then in total doing more than $80 million of business. All because I learned how to ask questions. So things that you might want to learn. So I have 5 stories. Number 1 is a story about this amazing Canadian fishing lodge. It's called Ole's. It's out in the Canadian wilderness, beautiful water, rocks, and trees. It's so awesome. And I meet this guy, and his name is Jeff. And Jeff says, Chris, you do marketing branding, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know what they need? They need marketing branding here. Have you ever thought about talking to them about doing their marketing? I'm like, no, because I'm so shy and weird. I can't talk to them. So Jeff's like, watch me. I'm going to go there. I'm going to get the business. And then you give me a percentage of the business. So he goes in there. He has this whole conversation. I'm sitting outside. I'm thinking to myself, you're such a chicken. Something, you're such a chicken. You didn't do this, and he's going to do it, and he's going to take 25% of the business. And so he comes out. I'm like, so how did it go? He goes, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'm like, whew. So that's the universe telling me, this is your shot, kid. Go take it. And this is the man I talked to. His name is Ernie. Okay, Ernie looks like the real life Crocodile Dundee. He's got a big knife too, right? I'm sitting down with Ernie. I have a conversation with him. I said, Ernie, you must get so much business. It's an incredible experience what you do. He goes, you know what? We don't actually. It's really hard to get new business, and our clients are literally dying. They're getting older and older, and they can't come out here anymore. So the door had opened. So the point I want to share with this story is have the courage to ask. If the person needs your help, they will let you know. You don't have to be pushy about it. So what I did was I just asked them a very innocent question. I made a presumption. You must get all the business you can because I love this experience. More people need to know about it. And I found the pain point. People are dying. Sales are going down. And what I did was I kept in touch with him for almost a year. And then he finally said yes. And I started working with him. And I learned a very valuable lesson. So what I want to encourage all of you is sometime tonight, tomorrow, the next day, whenever you're here, is when you meet somebody, please, 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 don't pitch, don't sell, don't perform, don't persuade. Just ask questions. Just be really curious and do it in the spirit of generosity. And what you want to do is discover what is it they want and what's standing in their way. If you do a good enough job, they might ask you, you are really smart. Do you do this thing? You're not even selling. If you're that good at asking questions, they will ask how to buy. That's awesome, right? So ask and be curious. Story number 2. Some of you know this book. It's called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. I highly recommend it. I was hosting a Clubhouse call with Blair Enns, the author of this book. We did 12 nights of Win Without Pitching. And this is Blair. It looks like a Russian agent, KGB. He's not. He's Canadian, okay? So the question is, how do you pitch to a sales expert? We're on the call, and I asked him this question. I said, hey, Blair, I noticed that your book is so beautiful, the typeface, the design, it's so awesome. But I noticed your presentation materials don't look anything like your book. How come? He goes, you know, you're right. I said, did you ever consider like hiring a designer to help you with this? And he was so deep in the conversation. Now, my team was on the call. He's like, he's doing it again. He's selling to him. He doesn't even know it. So at the end of the conversation, Blair's like, can you help me with this? I'm like, Blair, I was just messing around. I was seeing if I could sell you, and it seems like you're interested. And the whole audience is like laughing. This is great. And so the things I learned about doing that is you don't need to manufacture problems. Sales is not an artificial process. All you have to do is ask the question. Find out what they already care about. Consistency, beautiful design. If they don't, you have nothing to sell. And then you can naturally flow into the conversation of selling. Isn't that awesome? Easy. Selling is just a conversation. Story number 3 is a fitness coach. This is not the guy, but he looks just like this. He's pretty ripped, all right? What this sales coach did was so beautiful. I signed up for a personal fitness training program that I didn't even know I wanted. As you can tell, it's not working. I'm just kidding. Okay, so here's what he was able to do, right? On social, he was putting out content that was demonstrating his expertise. As a fitness coach, what is your expertise? How do you demonstrate your expertise? Does anybody know? Yell it out. Six-pack abs. It's just that simple. You have abs, you got my money. So if you're doing branding, marketing, copywriting, what are your six-pack abs? You need to show that thing that people want. It's the result, not the exercise program. He would do a series of videos. He would say, don't do this, do this. Super simple, easy to consume, highly entertaining. Don't do this, do this. You know, I can't do it, whatever the exercises were. Demonstrate what you know how to do, and people become really interested. Here's the cool part. He put out a comment. He says, if you are serious about getting fit, I have room in my program for 3 more people. I have a resource to share with you. Let me know. He's a friend of mine. So I messaged him, yo, man, I'm serious. And he messaged me right back, Chris, are you really serious? I'm like, yes, I'm really serious. I'll tell you why he did that later, okay? And then all of a sudden, I'm on the call. And next thing I know, here's my money. I've signed up for a 9-month coaching program. Easy, smooth, beautiful. Now, why did he ask, are you serious? Because I'm committing to my own goals, see? If you say, if you're not serious, I don't need to talk to you. But I kept saying, I am serious. So my ability to get out of the sales is really hard now. And here's one thing I want to share with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to achieve these goals? I'm like 8. And he asked me all these reasons, because I'm going to be a role model for my kids. I want to live longer. I have a lot of work to do, and I need to have high energy. He asked me this really beautiful question. He goes, why isn't the score lower? Not why it's not higher, why isn't it lower? Why isn't it a 8 or a 6 or a 5? I said, well, and I reinforced the idea. So what he was able to do was activate my own internal desire and my need to be consistent to make me buy his program. So the next time you get on a sales call, try to ask your clients on a scale of 1 to 10 how important it is to you, and then ask them why isn't the score lower, and they will talk themselves into it. So by asking the right questions, I think you will get the clients to convince themselves. I'm going to skip the story. I don't need to tell you the story, okay? I want to tell you this other one. The most perfect sales call I've ever been on was perpetrated onto me. It's the perfect pitch. So what this guy did was he got on the call and he says, hey, Chris, let me guess. You want a new salesperson because it takes too long to see results. Am I right? I'm like, oh yeah, it takes 3 to 6 months. And then you never know what they're doing, and they claim credit for everything, and you have to pay. So there's a lack of transparency and accountability. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you're right. He goes, when you find out it's not working, you've wasted 3 to 6 months, and you have to start the process all over again, wasting all this time and money. So what he's done is he's speaking to my pain points, and he's really pushing and applying pressure to this, that I want the solution. And by saying this, he tells me he knows what he's doing. So this is something that you might want to take a picture of, right? So when you get on a sales call, you can say to yourself, whenever I speak to customers like you, they usually tell me their 3 top problems are A, B, and C, right? And you'll have the same effect. Okay? The important part is if you guess and you're wrong, it's terrible. So you have to know what you're talking about. So don't guess, be specific, because it's an instant credibility builder. Because when you have those 3 pain points and the other person says, that's right, you've achieved master black belt level. And I signed up right away. So I'm going to give you some prompts. I'm almost done here. Some things to work on, some homework, okay? Here's 3 things. 1, what pain does your client experience? It could be functional, it could be financial, it could be emotional. I'm not communicating with my partner. We're missing job opportunities because I don't know how to sell. Whatever it is, you need to highlight what that is. What negative outcomes are your clients fearful of or trying to avoid? Loss of money, loss of time. What objections or accusations might new clients raise? Do what Chris Voss says, write an accusation audit. Write down everything they can say to kill the sell and try to figure out what's the most important and bring it up before they do. That's the key, okay? So here's the reminder. Selling is not convincing, it's not persuading, it's not performing, it's not manipulative. Selling is helping, being curious, learning, and it's an act of generosity. It's a conversation. The 2 things that you need to focus on are asking really good questions and learning to listen. That's it. Focus on those 2 key skills and you can do really great. And when you ask and listen and are fully present to what's going on, it's a beautiful thing. And I believe so much in the power of asking questions. I believe this is the 21st century durable skill. In the age of AI, the people who know how to ask questions will be 2 minutes, 3. Okay, thank you. Will be the leaders and the innovators because the internet already knows all the answers. So you have to learn how to ask questions. So questions are the answer. In the 20th century, answers were more powerful than questions. And when you ask great questions, what you do is you empower others to think for themselves, to solve their own problems. You offload the work for you to solve the problem. You help them to think and to lead to self-discovery where they own the solution, so it's much stickier. So you can imagine a sales conversation, if they have the solution and they say it, they're going to demand that you do it for them. And this is an awesome thing. The next part is learn how to listen. And there's this idea from Kevin Daly called practice full value listening, which is everything the client says is important. You take notes. You play back what you heard. Okay, I'm going to show you this thing. People are like, yeah, I know how to listen, Chris. I'm like, no, you don't. So when you ask a question and they give you an answer, the next question should be based on the answer they gave you. You know, you feel me. I get you. Okay, I got you, right? Here's what happens. You ask a question, they give you an answer, and then you ask a new question as if the last answer did not matter. So you should do this on repeat. There's a question, there's an answer, there's a question, there's an answer. What you don't want to do is to be a checklist interviewer, where you have a number of questions and you ask, and you never pay attention. That's the opposite of what you want to do, okay? So don't tell your customers about something they don't know about you. Tell them something they don't know about them. Now, before I go, I want to just remind you of this idea from Kevin Daly, Socratic selling. Asking great questions is something that will give you an unfair, legal, competitive advantage. So most of you should try your best to ask better questions. Oops, what the heck happened? Okay, so here's some resources. Don't worry. I'm going to play this movie, okay? Now, here's the part. This movie is going to flash every slide I've shown you so far, because I'm done. So you want to turn on your video camera, and on the count of 3, I'm going to start this, okay? It's going to go really, really fast. If you're prone to seizures, close your eyes. Everybody ready? Here we go. If it works. Does it work? Sorry, that part's slow. Everything else is fast. This will be better with music. Okay, that's it. It's looped. Everybody good? Put down your phone. You good? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. I'm out of time, everybody. Bye.